Hi. Well, I'm sad. I guess Kevin Colbert just decides I can't have nice things in this world. So, as you all know, I've been very much campaigning for Sam Darnold to be the next in line after 2021 when Ben Roethlisberger is no longer here. And literally, maybe an hour and a half ago, I did one of those stupid ass, what does WAP stand for tweets. And I said, will the Steelers please acquire Sam Darnold so I will piss my pants with happiness? And then, not an hour later, I get a notification from 49ers Gab saying, pour one out for at J Bailey NFL. And I hadn't looked at my phone because I was working on other things. And so I was like, what's that mean? What happened? And then lo and behold, I get the notification that the Carolina Panthers have acquired Sam Darnold. And, man, there's so much to say right now on April 5th, 2021, the day that God died, where so in my most recent mock draft for Sports Illustrated, I said that the Steelers should trade this year's third and next year's fifth for Sam Darnold. And it turns out the Panthers got him for less than that. They traded a fourth this year. Let me actually pull up the exact terms because I don't want to misconstrue this. And I just want to make sure I get it right because I'm 99% sure it was for less than what I had campaigned that they trade him for. So let me find Schefter's tweet. Yes. All right. For 2021, 6th-round pick, second and fourth pick next. Okay, so a little bit more, I guess, than what they got, than what I would have offered. But I believe those two are conditional. If I pull that back up. This is, it's unfortunate because now if you're Pittsburgh, what's next? I mean, good for Carolina. Good for Carolina. I mean, I think that Sam Darnold has a lot of untapped potential. Obviously, that's why I've been campaigning for him to be in a Steeler uniform. So good for Carolina. But now if you're Pittsburgh, what do you do now? Because you're not in a position where you have enough assets to trade up if you wanted to get a quarterback this year. Dwayne Haskins and Mason Rudolph aren't the future of this franchise. And they know that. If there's any organization that knows its worth and knows what it has to live up to, it's Pittsburgh. And so now you're kind of left with your hands tied almost. Unless you want to run back 2019 and have Mason Rudolph be the man in charge for 17 games, go 9-8, have the 14th or 15th pick in the draft, hope that you have enough to trade up and get one of these guys. But here's the thing though. If you look at a guy like a Sam Howell or a Spencer Rattler next year, I think it's going to be very similar to this year where it is every year almost. These guys are going to go within the first, 5 to 8 picks. You're going to have to give up a good amount of compensation to even get up there in the first place. Why not trade up for a guy or trade for a guy like Sam Darnold? And the thing that really irritates me is the fact that there was only 3 logical places that Sam Darnold could have landed. I tweeted this a few weeks ago. Washington, Pittsburgh, Carolina. And I said it, Carolina made the least amount of sense because why would you go, now I love Sam Darnold, but why would you go from Teddy Bridgewater to Sam Darnold? Because as much as I like Sam and as much as I think that he has so much potential to be better than what Teddy Bridgewater is, you're still kind of in no man's land with, kind of wondering. And thank you, Andrew. Yes, Slovis from USC, another guy. I was just naming a few off the top of my head. So there's a lot there's a lot that goes into that if you're Carolina too. That's a big risk that they're taking, and props to them for being aggressive. And now, if you look at what they've got on their roster, they've got like 9 quarterbacks on their roster now. They've got now Sam Darnold, Teddy Bridgewater, Will Greer, PJ Walker, and Tommy Stevens, 5 quarterbacks on their roster right now. Now we can kind of discount Will Greer and Tommy Stevens, I guess, because obviously the main thing that people are going to be paying attention to is what's going to happen to Teddy Bridgewater now. Are there going to be teams calling about him? More than likely. But if you're Carolina, I mean, you traded for him for a reason. You didn't trade for Sam Darnold for him to be a backup. You traded for him because you see the same potential that a lot of other people see. You see the same potential I see. And I don't just say that because Sam Darnold kind of looks like me. At least I've been told that. So now Pittsburgh has a lot of decisions to make. Because as much as Ben Roethlisberger has been such a hero to this city, bringing him back is looking more and more like not the smartest move. Because what's your exit plan with this? Now you can say, oh, did they owe it to Ben? Did they? Maybe you can make that argument. But what's next? Unless they really think that they've got a shot at Aaron Rodgers or something. Now, if for some unforsaken reason that ends up being what happens, then I will take back every bad thing I've said over the past few weeks, and I will delight. It will have to wait till 2022, but I will delight. Kevin Corbin's going to be drinking. So, is that a possibility? Maybe. I mean, I've seen the language that Aaron Rodgers is putting out there, throwing a wrench into people's plans, and what he means is that, oh, they wish I would have sucked, that way they could have gotten me out of there sooner and thrown in Jordan Love. Well, Aaron Rodgers just won the MVP of the league, so it doesn't look like he's lost a step at all. Now, if you're Green Bay and you try to force Aaron Rodgers out of there, you look bad. And so that leaves us in a place where, there's a possibility. I mean, maybe. I mean, Green Bay didn't take Jordan Love to sit on the bench for 5 years. Now I know that Aaron Rodgers sat for 3, but it's a very different NFL now than it was between 2005 and 2008. You draft a guy in the first round, you expect him to be playing within the first 2 years. It doesn't look like Jordan Love's going to be playing at all this year, barring an injury. So, now, Aaron Rodgers becomes an interesting little footnote, because you got to remember, Pittsburgh's going to have a lot of cap room. They're going to have a lot of cap room next year. And their 2 biggest needs are going to be, all right, we got to re-sign Minka Fitzpatrick, got to extend him, got to extend TJ Watt. Those are their 2 biggest needs. Their 2 biggest needs next year. I don't care. I don't give a damn about Juju Smith-Schuster. And for the love of God, if they give him another deal and it's long term, I will be irate once again. But their 2 biggest needs going forward are TJ Watt and Minka Fitzpatrick. Those are going to be the 2 biggest things that they got to worry about next year. And then in a couple years, Devin Bush. But they still got a little bit to worry about him because he's only going into his 3rd year, so they've got time with the whole Devin Bush thing. They really need to get this right. And if Aaron Rodgers is a potential candidate, I like it. I really do. I think maybe that's why I'm smiling right now. It's because I'm just trying to hold on to some sort of hope for this team's future beyond this year, because what do they have going forward? They've got, as of right now, a bust of an okay backup. I mean, Mason Rudolph isn't terrible, but he's not a starter in this league. I wouldn't be against them going and getting Gardner Minshew. I'd be okay with that. A little 3-way competition between Rudolph, Dwayne Haskins, and Gardner Minshew. I think Gardner Minshew will win that. Now, the thing with Haskins, though, is that it's only a 1-year deal. So I can't see him being back after this year regardless. I think this is just, okay, let's try to help him. Let's give him a year contract and put a good word out for him if he shows up and he does what he needs to do. But I would be okay with a Gardner Minshew type thing, I'd be perfectly fine with that. And Andrew Maid, I appreciate the subscription. It means a lot. So, and I'm trying not to focus only on the Pittsburgh aspect of this, but being that a Steeler fan and that I write about the team for several outlets, obviously that's the first thing that comes to mind is, damn it, they whiffed. They missed out on this. And you look at the just tumultuous offseason that Pittsburgh's had, this is just another notch in that belt. They lose Bud Dupree to Tennessee. They lose Mike Hilton to Cincinnati, of all places. Like, I've said this a trillion times on a bunch of different shows. They were always going to let Mike Hilton go because they knew they couldn't afford him. Cam Sutton is a cheaper option, and he played well in Mike Hilton's absence. They were always going to let him go, but the fact that he went to Cincinnati, that's a pain in the butt. That's a pain. And then they waive Steven Nelson. They waive Vince Williams. They get Tyson Alualu back in a weird chain of events. Tyson Alualu comes back. And then for some godforsaken reason, they re-signed Juju Smith-Schuster, which they absolutely didn't need to do to begin with. Whatever, I don't want to get into the Juju thing right now, but you get the point. It's been a bad offseason, and then you don't get Sam Darnold. You could have got him. Look what they just gave up for him. They gave us 6 this year. A 6. And then a 4th next year, and a second. Yes, a second next year, that's a pain. I get it. But come on. Because if you don't have a quarterback, you don't have anything. I don't care what. I don't give a damn that Nick Foles won a Super Bowl. That is the exception. It's very much not the rule. And a system that was played down for him, dumbed down where he could succeed. That is very much the exception, not the rule. And let's not pretend that he did it by himself, because he had a phenomenal defense, a really good offensive line. So let's not pretend that Nick Foles winning Super Bowl automatically changes how the NFL works. It doesn't. Do we get the occasional Cinderella story? Sure. Oh, Jeff Hostetler did the same thing. And I know that Brad Johnson won a Super Bowl too, and I know that Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl too, but look at what all of those guys had around them. Phenomenal talent. And especially in the cases of Brad Johnson and Trent Dilfer, phenomenal defenses on the other side of the ball. And John Gruden, being the former Raiders head coach, knew exactly what was going to happen, and Norv Turner didn't change what he was doing, and it was almost became easy for the Buccaneers. So, and ignore me as I try to update all of this, because I'm still trying to figure all this out too. It's a tough day. It's been a tough few months as a Steeler fan, man. Especially more so with the fact that they lost so many pieces, important pieces on the defensive side of the ball. But what does need to be pointed out is that, Mika Fitzpatrick, best safety in football, still there. TJ Watt, best edge rusher in football, still there. Joe Hayden, very capable cornerback. They do have needs. They need a left tackle. They need a center. Not so much anymore that they brought in B.J. Finney, but you don't want him being the long-term starter at center. You're going to need to take one at some point in the draft. Left tackle, center, cornerback, and a running back. Yes, those are all needs right now. I very much understand that. And they need to knock it out of the park in this draft, in whatever order they decide to go in. So, yes, it is a very stressful time as a Steeler fan, as a Steelers writer, that Sam Darnold is now on the Carolina Panthers. Now, for Carolina going forward, you look at what they have. It's a better situation than New York. They've got some remnants of an NFL team who's... Don't let the record of Carolina last year confuse you. I believe they went 5-11. They were competitive throughout the season. They could have beat Kansas City. So you look at the how each of their games went. They were all competitive for the most part, and they played like an 8-9 win team. And it was just a matter of the other team being more talented more often than not, where it just didn't turn out that way. The week 1 game against the Raiders was a shootout right from the start that they very well could have won as well. So they very well could have been a 7-8 win team last year. It just didn't turn out that way. But don't let the record fool you. I mean, Matt Rule is doing a phenomenal job in rebuilding this thing. But man alive, this is now for the Jets and the draft. You can just pencil in Zach Wilson at that number 2 spot, which I'm excited about. Now, let me be excited about this because I love Zach Wilson. He's my favorite quarterback in this draft. So let me enjoy this because I'm looking forward to seeing him in this offense. I really am. You know, they haven't been too noisy this offseason, but they've got a few little pieces. You know, they brought in Keelan Cole, Jameson Crowder's still there. I think they're going to draft another lineman and put opposite of Mekhi Becton. Defensively, they've gotten a little bit better. Robert Saleh coming in, I think that he will be a suitable coach. So I'm liking what the Jets have done so far this offseason. Now it just becomes, all right, let's plug in Zach Wilson. They need to protect him, and they need to get him some weapons. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if Steven Nelson lands there because they've got cap room, and Steven Nelson's a very good cornerback. So that would make sense to me. If you put Steven Nelson in that defense, I'm just saying, it would be good. I think Richard Sherman's going to end up there as well. I mean, it just makes sense with Robert Saleh. The connection that they have there from San Francisco, that just makes a lot of sense. He's not coming back to San Francisco, so might as well follow Saleh to the Jets. So you can pretty much Sharpie in the first 2 picks of the draft now. With Trevor Lawrence to Jacksonville and Zach Wilson to the Jets. And then that brings us to the 3rd pick where, you know, Justin Fields, I think, is going to be the pick. I don't care about all this noise about Mac Jones. Mac Jones isn't worth a first-round pick to me, much less trading up for the number 3 pick. So I think it's going to be Fields at 3. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that'll be the first time in NFL history that 3 quarterbacks have been taken with the first 3 picks in the draft. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure. So, yeah, this has a lot of implications for a lot of teams. One, I think the Panthers are going to get better because I love Sam Darnold. I wouldn't have been campaigning for Sam Darnold to be a Steeler this entire offseason if I didn't see all that potential in him. And this is frustrating, man. It really is. But, you know, for the Panthers, they're going to get better. I think they do. They need to get a tight end. That is one thing that they need to get a little bit more offensive line help because we don't want Sam Darnold to have to live through the same things that he lived through in New York. And for the Jets, I mean, it's an exciting future. You know, new head coach, you're going to have a new quarterback, a few new pieces, see how they do overall in the draft. Don't forget Denzel Mims either. You know, I think that he still has a chance to be a very good receiver in this league. So, I mean, you add Keelan Cole with Jameson Crowder. Denzel Mims is there. You get a tight end, or at least use the ones that you have in the right way, unlike Adam Gase. Defensively, they've gotten a little bit. They've added a few pieces. Quentin Williams is still really good. I think that they're going to add at least one of these free agent cornerbacks. There's still a lot of free agent cornerbacks out there. Casey Hayward's still out there. Steven Nelson, Richard Sherman, A.J. Bouye's still out there. So they've got a lot of options if, you know, they want to add another guy in the secondary. So those are all things that you need to keep an eye on when it comes to the Jets because they have a lot of cap space. I believe they still have the 2nd most in the league behind Jacksonville because Jacksonville really hasn't done much this offseason, which is shocking because they came in kind of guns blazing, hiring Urban Meyer, you know, big name hiring, most cap space in the NFL, and for the most part, outside of the Shaq Griffin signing, it's been crickets. It's been crickets in Jacksonville. So there's a lot of things that this trade has done. It's given the Jets a guaranteed selection of Zach Wilson, and it's given the Carolina Panthers and Sam Darnold kind of a fresh start. Christian McCaffrey's coming back in Carolina. You know, Teddy Bridgewater is a solid bridge guy, no pun intended. But I think when you have the chance to get a guy like Sam Darnold and try to give him as many pieces around him to succeed as you can, you go do it. That's why I thought Pittsburgh was the best spot for him, but ultimately, of course, they do what they always do and don't do what makes sense. So, no Sam Darnold in Pittsburgh. And I'm sad. But I'm also excited because I'm going to hold on to the fact that Aaron Rodgers is going to be a Steeler next year. You can market that as my whole new conspiracy theory that With everything, the little hidden innuendos that Aaron Rodgers is putting out in the media. Oh, hey, I guess I threw a wrench into some people's plans. Come on now. Come on. Steelers have a lot of cap space next year. Ben Roethlisberger won't be there. I want it. I want it more than anything I've ever wanted before. And yes, I did say that about Zach Wilson being a Steeler and Sam Darnold being a Steeler. But now, if that's the case, y'all, come on. I'm putting it out there. And somebody will see this and they'll start to agree with me. Come on. Please, God. I want it. I want it really badly. I want it so bad. Aaron Rodgers in a Steeler uniform to close out his career, maybe win another bowl. Come on. I want it. I want it so bad. Come on. So I'm going to hold on to this. I really am. Now, like I said, for 2021, in terms of the Steelers, as it sits right now, we still got the draft in a few weeks to worry about. So I think, if they knock this draft out of the park, then I think they're fine. Because like I said, there are 4 positions of need that they really need to cover. They need a left tackle, a center, a cornerback, and a running back. In any order that you want to do it. I don't care. I want them to take Travis Etienne if he's there. That'll give him Alvin Kamara 2.0. Because I love Travis Etienne. I think he's the best back in this class. Sorry, Najee Harris. He's better than you. And then if they take a guy like Dylan Raduns from North Dakota State in the 2nd round, right there's your left tackle. You can get a guy like Quinn Miners in the 3rd round, right there's your center. Or a guy like Drake Jackson as well. I think at least one of them will be available at that time of picking. Right there, you got your center. And then, there's going to have to be a cornerback taken at some point in this draft. There really is. But the good news for Pittsburgh, this is a very deep defensive back class. So if you're in the 4th round, you could get a guy with, mid-3rd round talent that kind of slides a little bit just because of team needs. So it's a very deep defensive back class. You can get a guy like Benjamin St-Juste from Minnesota, who has had conversations with Pittsburgh, so he's told me. There's a lot of really good defensive backs in this class. A guy like DJ Daniel could be there. Keith Taylor. How do I feel about Richard Sherman? I mean, like I said, I think he's going to the Jets. It just makes the most sense for him to follow Robert Saleh to the Jets on a cheap deal. But if they were to bring him in for, a year, then that I wouldn't be against it. It's an obvious need that could save them a draft pick. Now, they would probably still have to, take corner at some point in this draft just because right now what's on the roster is Joe Hayden, Cam Sutton, Justin Lane, James Pierre. I mean, they lack a lot of depth, so they would definitely have to take one at some point, but they would feel more comfortable waiting till the 3rd or 4th round to take one because they bring in a guy like Richard Sherman. But I wouldn't be surprised if they take one of these corners that are available in free agency because they've reworked a lot of contracts. They reworked Cam Hayward's deal. They reworked Eric Ebron's deal. And now they've freed up something like $13.5 million in cap space, which is more than enough to get one of these guys. So if they want to go get an A.J. Bouye, they want to get a Casey Hayward, you can do it because you got the money to do it. And I think it would be dumb if they didn't do it because God knows that they need help at that position. But they didn't just free up this cap space just to free up the cap space. They did it with having the idea of making a move. And I think that with the honestly astounding number of really good guys that are still available at that position, at a position that they need, yeah, it would make sense for them to go get somebody like that. I wouldn't be against Richard Sherman, but I would rather have Casey Hayward or A.J. Bouye. And I'm still convinced that Richard Sherman's going to be a Jet. So we'll see what happens there. But, assuming that they're going to take one of these, that they're going to sign at least one of these free agent corners, which, like I said, it would just make sense for them to do. You can go Travis Etienne, you can go left tackle center in any order that you want. You can go left tackle, cornerback, then center. I mean, it's a deep offensive line class, too. There's probably the 2 deepest positions in this class are offensive line and defensive back. And then, if a guy like Benjamin St-Juste is available in the 4th or 5th rounds, he's had conversations with Pittsburgh. And maybe keep an eye out for seeing Benjamin St-Juste on a certain show later on this week. Wink. So there are a number of guys that they could take to plan for next year and the future going forward. And the fact that it's such a deep class, that benefits them a lot. Because both are positions that they need, and they could, wait a little bit to do it if they decide to. So they've got the benefit of that. And, look around the AFC North. I mean, Joe Burrow coming back obviously makes Cincinnati a lot better. Assuming that they take Penny Sewell, which would make the most sense. He's the best tackle in this class. You can make the argument for a Sean Slater as well. Either one of those, they need a left tackle, is what I'm saying. And I think they're going to take one. So that just makes the most sense. Get Joe Burrow some protection. They've really, they brought in Mike Hilton from Pittsburgh, so their secondary, they did lose William Jackson, which kind of sucks for them. But, I like the direction that they're going in. And I think that they'll be better next year. They've got a lot of good draft picks in this draft as well, so they very well could kill this draft and become a 6 or 7 win team. I don't think they're quite a playoff team yet, but I think anywhere between a 6 to 8 win team, somewhere in that window, I think that's pretty viable for Cincinnati. So, I mean, they won what? How many games? 5 last year? 4 last year? 4 or 5. So, yeah, with a healthy Joe Burrow throughout all 17 games, there's no reason why they can't be a 7 or 8 win team. He's that guy. And then you look at Baltimore. Baltimore doesn't scare me at all. Their defense got a lot worse, and their offense isn't good, aside from running the ball. Eventually, you got to make throws to win games, and they couldn't beat Pittsburgh. Can't beat Kansas City. Couldn't beat Buffalo. Until Baltimore beats one of the bona fide teams in the AFC, I don't care about them. I don't. You beat Tennessee. Congratulations. Tip the cap. Lamar Jackson got his first career playoff win. Tennessee is a good team. They're not a great team. And until they figure out how to beat Kansas City, until they figure out how to beat a fully healthy Steelers team, which they couldn't do last year, and they very well almost didn't do when playing against Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges in Week 4 of 2019, they don't scare me. They don't. I think Cleveland and Pittsburgh are the 2 best teams in this division. You can make it a coin flip. I wouldn't argue if you said Cleveland, wouldn't argue if you said Pittsburgh. Cleveland is the team that scares me the most in the AFC North. It sure as hell isn't Baltimore. Cincinnati's coming, but they're not quite there yet. Now, as far as I'm concerned, I'm not going to say it. I'll say this. In terms of passing the ball, the Ravens have the worst quarterback in the AFC North. Joe Burrow's a better passing quarterback than Lamar Jackson is. Baker Mayfield's starting to kind of rise up those ranks. He played well down the stretch last year. Lamar Jackson is a one-trick pony. And we all marveled at the fact that he could run all over the place against Washington and Cincinnati, but when he plays teams like Buffalo, Pittsburgh, and Kansas City, he can't do a damn thing. And what a pity that is. So until Baltimore starts actually beating the great teams, I'm not worried about Baltimore. And their defense got a lot worse. They don't have a go-to wide receiver outside of Hollywood Brown. Couldn't really lure in a guy because they all know, yeah, Lamar Jackson can't throw downfield, and I want my stats, and I want to contribute to wins and not be a part of a running offense. So even the big-name wide receivers, everybody was talking about, why can't Baltimore land a receiver? Because they don't throw the ball downfield enough. And when they do, it doesn't work. They are a running team who relies on the short passing game and tight ends, and that's about it. And their defense got worse. They lost Matt Judon. That's a big loss. Secondary, yeah, Marlon Humphrey's pretty good. Marcus Peters, sure. Don't really have much of a front 7 anymore. Calais Campbell's 97 years old. Yannick Ngakoue's gone. Baltimore doesn't scare me whatsoever. They'll be anywhere between a 9 to 10 win team, maybe 11. They don't scare me. Do not scare me whatsoever. And they've got the second hardest schedule this year. Now, Pittsburgh has the hardest, but I believe in Pittsburgh overall as a team a hell of a lot more than I believe in Baltimore. Baltimore doesn't scare me. Cleveland, a little bit. Now, Pittsburgh, they kind of beat themselves. Now, Cleveland played phenomenal in that wildcard game last year, not taking that away from them, but Pittsburgh in many ways beat themselves. So do I think that Pittsburgh is still the best overall team in the AFC North? Yes, I do. But Cleveland is very much coming, and they are very close to overtaking that. And after 2021, I think they'll be there. Because Ben Roethlisberger will be gone. Unless Aaron Rodgers is Steelers quarterback, then that'll be a different discussion. Which I'm holding on to. But, no, in terms of the best teams in the division right now, Pittsburgh is still the best to me. Cleveland is right on their tails. Cincinnati's coming. Baltimore's still third, but they're just so one-dimensional that they don't scare any of the big-name teams. They don't scare Kansas City. That's for damn sure. They don't scare Buffalo. That's for damn sure. And by the looks of it, they don't scare Pittsburgh either. So until they develop a passing game, they're not going to scare anybody, aside from the teams that they can beat because they're just not good enough. But in terms of the great teams, I promise you, Baltimore doesn't scare anybody. They beat Tennessee. Tennessee's a good team. They're not a great team. Pittsburgh last year was a great team. And Baltimore couldn't beat them. Buffalo last year, one of the greatest teams, and they dumped all over Baltimore. Kansas City dumps all over Baltimore every time they play them. Why is that? Well, because they don't let Lamar Jackson run all over the place, and he can't throw outside the numbers, and that's where they dictate him to throw. Now, I know this started out as me talking about me being sad that Sam Darnold is now a Panther. But we've come full circle where I'm degrading the Baltimore Ravens because they're one-trick ponies, and when they play great teams, they fail to show up. Which seems to be my favorite hobby. But my goodness gracious. It appears I'm getting a call from Rocky Mount, Virginia right now. Which I'm going to ignore. And perhaps call back after. But yes, even without this, I feel like this is going to be, for the Steelers in 2021, I feel like it's going to be a similar situation to that of New Orleans last year, where Ben comes back, much like Drew Brees came back. They have a solid team. They don't have a great team. They'll make the playoffs. They'll get eliminated around the divisional round. And that'll be that. They can very well win a playoff game next year, as long as they don't shoot themselves in the foot. They can win a playoff game. Hell, maybe if they get lucky, they can win 2. They're not going to be a Super Bowl team. They're not better than Kansas City. They're not better than Buffalo. Cleveland's right on their tails too. I wouldn't be surprised if Cleveland won the division this year, honestly. Because you got to remember, Cleveland finished 3rd in the division. Am I right on that? Finished 3rd in the division. So they're going to play a 3rd place schedule with Odell Beckham coming back. They're getting better on both sides of the ball. I assume they're going to... they've drafted really well the past few years. Oh, and they just added John Johnson to the secondary. Cleveland's going to be a problem. I'm a hell of a lot more scared of Cleveland than I am of Baltimore. So, I think Cleveland very well could be an 11-12 win team. I think Pittsburgh will be right around there too. I think anywhere between 10 and 12 wins. I think Baltimore will be around 9 to 10, maybe 11. Cincinnati maybe around 7 to 9. I hate that there's 17 games now, by the way. I hate it. But yes. Am I sad that Sam Darnold isn't a Steeler? Yes, I'm quite sad. But I'm also optimistic. Because Aaron Rodgers, after 2021, will be a Pittsburgh Steeler. And you can bookmark this, and you can screen record it, either to tell me how much of a genius I am, or just laugh at me at this time next year when it's not the fact, which is more than likely the truth and what's going to happen. But so yes, it is annoying that Pittsburgh has had such a tumultuous offseason. I was about to make an analogy that might have been off the cuff, but I don't want to offend anybody, so I'm not going to do it. You can DM me asking me what I was going to say. But in terms of this year, they're going to be okay. I think they're just going to draft well, which I think they will. And after that, it's just, we'll figure out what the quarterback situation is, because they're not going to be high enough of a draft pick to draft any of the big name guys. So they're going to have to rely on either trading for somebody or signing a free agent. Now I need to go through and see what the possible free agent quarterbacks are. But odds are, if they want to keep, instead of rebuilding, just reloading, they're going to have to trade for a guy. Whether that be Russell Wilson, whether that be Aaron Rodgers, they're going to have to make a move. Because Mason Rudolph and Dwayne Haskins are not the answer. Dwayne Haskins is only here for a year, and I will be surprised if he is back next year. He will not be. So, just keep things in perspective with the fact that, yes, Pittsburgh does have needs that they need to fill, but they're all very capable of being filled before the end of the month. So when draft time rolls around and when the draft is over, I think we're going to be able to put this thing together are we going to be able to see, all right, on paper, let's start predicting some things. That's what I'm going to start doing. I know I kind of did one already after free agency, but I'm not going to do another one of those till after the draft. So whether it be on Fansided or Sports Illustrated, I'll let you know. But yeah, I'm annoyed. I'm cautiously optimistic that something good will happen. But yeah, right now, it's looking grim in terms of the quarterback situation. That's the only thing I'm really worried about. But it's the biggest thing. So, yes, I'm sad. I'm annoyed. I wanted Sam Darnold to be a Steeler more than anything. But Kevin Colbert doesn't want me to be happy, ever. So you can't see these pearly whites. That was all horrible. All right, I'm going to edit that out. Kind of horrible. But man, I don't know. I'm starting to talk myself into the fact that if Aaron Rodgers is unhappy at the end of 2021 and Green Bay really wants to start Jordan Love, that Aaron Rodgers will be, oh, what would he wear? He wouldn't wear 12. Oh, no. Maybe 8. Didn't he wear 8 in college? I'm 90% sure he wore number 8 at Cal. I'm looking it up. I'm like 80% sure that he wore 8 in college. Click on images. Yes, 8. He would, oh, Tommy Maddox 2.0. Honestly, Aaron Rodgers and 8 in Pittsburgh is going to be my next thing. I'm going to tweet something. This is going to be fun. But yes, the offseason has been tumultuous for Pittsburgh to get back on point. And losing out on the whole Sam Darnold sweepstakes when there's only 3 teams that could have really made a move for him, and the one that I least expected to make a move for him made the move for him. So yeah, it is annoying as a Steeler fan. And I'm sad, and I'm drinking, and I'm drooling. But yes, I'm talking myself into a great scenario that in 2022, Aaron Rodgers will be the Lord and Savior of the Pittsburgh Steelers. He is our one true God. And everything will be okay. And I'll forgive everything. Because I'm convinced it's going to happen. And if it does, then I'll be happy. But yes, it is. And you can also tell me what you think is going to happen too. I mean, you might as well. For those just joining me, I'm convincing myself that Aaron Rodgers is going to be the quarterback of the Steelers in 2022. So that's what's getting me through today. I'd settle for Russell Wilson, but anybody saying that Russell Wilson's going to get traded now, I know I tweeted a few months ago after the Carson Wentz trade that I don't want to hear any excuse about a quarterback not being able to be traded because of a cap hit or a dead cap hit. Well, Carson Wentz is with 32, 33 million, and right now Russell Wilson's would be 56. So the chances of him getting traded to me right now are pretty slim. And you have to blow Seattle away with an offer. We saw what the Bears offered, and that wasn't enough. So you're going to really have to just give up a lot. But yeah, so I don't think it's going to be Russell Wilson in play. But I do think following the season, Aaron Rodgers is very much in play. Very much in play. And for the love of God, I'm already foreshadowing for being pissed off in 2022 because Aaron Rodgers is going to end up in like New England or something. But for the love of God and all that is holy, they need to figure out this quarterback situation. This is Ben's swan song. This is it. 7 is out after this year. It is done. He is done. So there's not really, and we know they're going to do too well to finish in the top 5 to 10 to get a guy with this defense and with that offense. They're not going to finish in the top 10. At worst, they'll go 10-7, which won't be enough to finish in the top 10. I hate saying that, to 10-7. Oh, I hate the 17-game season. So we're going to see what happens. But Sam Darnold not being in a Steeler uniform, yes, it very much makes me sad. And I appreciate all your condolences. So I'm going to go. If you didn't see all of this, it's on YouTube. Live streaming on YouTube right now. So if you missed any of it, just go watch it on YouTube. Give me a subscribe and a like. It really helps me out. Later on this week, Laces Out on Wednesday, Kurt and I will be joined by Syracuse defensive back Afitu Melifonwu, a guy who very well could go in the first round this year. So don't miss that. That'll be on the Laces Out YouTube page. Go subscribe to that as well. Subscribe to everything I do on YouTube, actually. Go subscribe to Two Skinny Dudes as well, that I do with Jason Aponte every Saturday at noon Eastern. So we're going to have Afitu Melifonwu on Wednesday on Laces Out. Friday, we're going to do another Laces Out show with another prospect that I haven't announced yet, and I'll announce it on Twitter here in a little bit. So pay attention to that. But yeah, like and subscribe, turn on notifications for this channel, the Laces Out podcast, Two Skinny Dudes, everything I do here on YouTube and Twitter. Make sure that you pay attention to it, because that makes me a happy boy. So anyway, I appreciate you joining me on my 40-minute rant about Sam Darnold not being a Steeler and hoping to God that Aaron Rodgers will be in a year's time. So appreciate y'all. Like I said, tune in Laces Out Wednesday with Afitu Melifonwu. And then Friday, another draft prospect, which I will announce later today. And then Saturday, Jay and I got Two Skinny Dudes at noon. So again, subscribe to my channel, Jarrett Bailey. If you're not watching on YouTube, go do that. Subscribe to the Laces Out podcast, where you can catch me and Kurt with Afitu on Wednesday. And then all of the other clips that we put out, if you miss any of the show, we kind of cut it up, dice it up, and put it in nice little clips for those who missed anything. And then Friday, we'll be back on Laces Out as well. And then Jay and I on Two Skinny Dudes, noon Eastern, on the Two Skinny Dudes YouTube channel, which the last 2 weeks we streamed it on Jay's because we were figuring out the Two Skinny Dudes YouTube channel. We figured it all out, so it'll be streaming from there this Saturday at noon Eastern time. So again, thanks for tuning in, y'all. If you missed any of it, go back and rewatch it. You can tweet at me. I'll answer any of your questions at JBaileyNFL. Subscribe to all the YouTube stuff. Thanks for joining me. See you on Wednesday on Laces Out with Kurt with Afitu Melifonwu, and I will see y'all then.